Reckless 2.0, here again with Vickiss and D-Train. D-Train, are you there?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody.
Great. Good evening. How are you this evening, sir?
Still on the plantation, you know.
As always, same here. Yes, definitely very excited for this program. Very much looking forward to our guest this evening, Mr. Drew Hepkins. Yes, I saw his started with me seeing one of his documentaries on YouTube about I was just thinking of, about looking for things about Bill Cosby, really wanting to do some research, and certainly saw some very profound and intriguing things on not only just on Bill Cosby but various other socially orchestrated controversies, and also various things in pop culture that I found very, very intriguing and constructive. But before we get to our guest, D-Train, was there any housekeeping or anything before we got it rolling?
Yeah, just real quickly, you know that I reside in Baltimore City, and we had a couple listeners email and ask if we were going to do anything on any follow-up on the Freddie Gray situation. And I was waiting. I wanted to wait until Lieutenant Rice was tried because I think he was the catalyst of this whole situation. And, that's where the whole altercation started. And, he has the highest rank of any official. And, he's a white man. So I kind of wanted to start from there, like in terms of when we do a program, just for those three reasons.
Great. Okay. Well, without further ado, let's see if our guest is on the line. Mr. Hepkins, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing very good. Very, very busy, but all is well.
Good.
Hey, good evening, sir. This is D-Train.
How you doing?
I'm all right.
Great. Well, definitely thank you for calling into our broadcast. Certainly, before we get started, is there anything you would like our audience to know about your work, where they can, find your YouTube channel, your blogs, and things of that nature?
Sure. The website, the YouTube site is pretty new. It's only been up for a year, but it's Drew Story News, and Drew is spelled D-R-U. And as is the website, drewstorynews.com, so you can find the blogs there. I transferred it from drewhepkins.com to Drew Story News, so everything is right there, drewstorynews.com.
Great, drewstorynews.com. I guess, D-Train, did you want to start off?
Yeah, sure. So... Just the platform as this shows to discuss white supremacy in a global context, and I think this whole this whole charade is it definitely it definitely has a lot to do with white supremacy. So I just wanted to ask you, Mr. Hepkins, do you think that white supremacy exists? And when I say white supremacy, I mean a system of people who classify themselves as white, who seek to dominate and control people who they classify as non-white. Like, do you believe that definition is accurate?
I definitely believe that a structure of white supremacy exists in an elite class. I think that the structure is in a white supremacist structure, like the police departments, the banks, everything is structured with a white supremacist design. Do I think a lot of people are actively, white supremacist? No, I just think a lot of people are not aware of how things work, aware of the game, aware of who is in control and how things work.
Yes, sir. All right. I guess we can get back to a little piece of that, but I really wanted to get into the allegations against Dr. Cosby. I think you wanted to start off with a question. Or...
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Sorry about that. I was muted. Yes, I guess we wanted to start off with just the allegations against Dr. Cosby, and I guess you certainly did a large amount of work, obviously, investigating the situation. And I guess I would ask you, what prompted you to really investigate and research Dr. Cosby the allegations against Dr. Cosby to that extent, and what is your take on why these allegations are happening now?
Why? Well, initially, I began to focus on the issue. Not necessarily to insist he was innocent. It was just I have respect for the law, and I study a lot of legal cases, and what I was saying was just not right, and it was reminiscent of what happened with Michael Jackson, and there was a quick rush to judgment, and there were some things that were weird. I still didn't know what happened or what went down or any of the logistics, but what was being done and how this stuff was being brought right onto primetime TV was a little bit, not right. It was unconstitutional, and I began to say stuff publicly about that. And then, little by little, I started to step in a little further and started to investigate a little bit about what was going on and what some of the claims were. And that's when I was like, no, this situation doesn't sound right. I'm not sure about the other allegations, but one by one, I was researching each case and realizing that some of these things had some gaping holes, some very suspicious elements to the story. And once I reached a certain amount of accusers that something just was not right, that's when I just went all in, and something had to be said. And then it just went down a rabbit hole from there, because then there were many hands involved in what I saw to be a deception, a omission of information, and so you could see it for what it was. There was something very off, and there was no doubt that this was part of some sort of agenda. Case in point, I would consider myself an alternative journalist, but when you have any respect for journalism, you understand certain things. Anderson Cooper on CNN had P.F. Mattson on TV, live on air, talking about Bill Cosby, and what I found pretty interesting was that she was the same person that 10 years prior to what she's claiming now, she also claimed that she was raped by Marv Albert, another high-profile celebrity. And she said this happened in '97. She did not win that case. Even the victim who brought forth the case didn't know who she was, called her a liar, trying to jump on her case. And while Anderson Cooper sat there and interviewed her, he did not mention any of this. Now, lightning strikes twice. If you're a journalist and some other high-profile person did the same exact thing to me that I'm claiming now with someone else, and you're a journalist, and you don't mention that, something's very wrong with that. And I've been just finding a lot of these things that were just not right with the media, just not right with the stories, just not right with a lot of the players involved in the story, which led me to make these documentaries that I knew wasn't going to be met with a lot of applause initially, but it was rooted in truth.
Well, now you say you weren't met with a lot of applause. What was the initial reaction, or I guess backlash, or response to you posting that?
It was interesting. It was met with actually some support. Surprisingly, I didn't, release. At first I did blogs first. I didn't release any of this for an applause. I feel, a responsibility to the truth. And if I do my due diligence, if I do the research, if I do the work, and if I uncover something that I believe is the truth, I have no fear in releasing it. And what I did, there were a few people who were on the fence and not so sure. And, they came by and they applauded it. But as I expected, there were some people who were vehemently against it, not because they knew anything. They didn't realize that I had done quite a bit more research than they had, and I knew a little bit more about the cases than they did. But they were so indoctrinated at this point and so sold on the narrative. I mean, it was very convincing. When the media is beating you over the head with something every day, week to week, month to month, it's hard not to believe it. But, a few people who contacted me privately, congratulated me. Some of them were attorneys. Like, you know what, you're on the money. I called this thing a while ago, and they told me their reasons why, and they helped me along. And I was collecting information from attorneys, collecting information from their actual statements, and I wasn't, in it to listen. I don't like rape as much as the next person, and rape is very, very serious to all of us. Like, no one's a rape apologist, but what I saw happening in the media, in the law, every industry that I had an interest in, the media, the law, was being bastardized by this situation. And you had the media not doing journalism. You had lawyers and grandstanders not doing law. You had everything going wrong and out of whack to support this agenda, and the truth needed to be told about it. And a lot of what Alred was doing, was something other than practicing law.
Now, you mentioned agendas. Yeah, you mentioned agendas earlier. What would be the agenda behind, the omission of a lot of truths and presenting Dr. Cosby in such a light so quickly? And why now? After I certainly remember when it first came to light. 10 years ago. It was front page news. So why again, and why to this extent?
Well, that is the question. That no one's really going to that page because everybody's still, most people are still stuck on the sensationalism of his guilt. And we're not asking the questions like, why now? Why, I was, on a different show talking about some of Alred's clients, and we were going one by one of the women that she's representing. And I think, my mind drifted off for a second, and I was zoning in on something else. She was saying, the year that they came out with their allegation, and a lot of them, 2015. So you have some of them splattered a little earlier than that. Then you have a whole bunch of them all concentrated around the same time. Why is that? Why did they all come out now? Why are all of them coming front and center right now? Was there a catalyst? Was there a reason? Was there a proposition? These are things that, one would ask if they were thinking critically. Why are all these women coming out now? And, it defies statistics, like normal statistics. Like, we all know certain things. Well, we don't all know. I'll retract that. But the truth about rape is it's true. A lot of people don't report rape. A lot of people are traumatized by rape. But when you factor in certain statistics, this situation doesn't make sense. Out of 55 women, many of them who were adults in their late 20s and 30s when the alleged incident happened, some of them mothers with children, out of 55 of these women, you're saying none of them went to the police. None of them got a toxicology report. None of them told a family member, a friend. Even contained in this own situation, the statistics don't really make sense or add up.
Agreed. D-Train?
Yeah, so I was going to ask, so So a lot, what I've noticed is a lot of these women that have come out with allegations 30, 40 years ago are white, right? And I'm thinking, like, in the, early 80s, late to early 70s, this is when these allegations started. And I'm thinking about the racial climate in the United States at that time. And, which, I mean, it might even have been arguably worse than right now. It just strikes me as odd, that he wouldn't have lost his career at the very least if he had, if a bunch of these allegations were truthful. It just kind of boggles my mind that I guess, like, what would your commentary be? If somebody said something.
There's exactly what you just said. A lot of people have said that. I believe Monique Presley had also said that. In addition to a lot of people, like, the racial climate wouldn't allow for a lot of their statements to, sound right. Like a black, you couldn't get a cop to be interested in at least investigating. And all of this is besides the fact that you have that. That's just one act, something not said. In 1971, Bill Cosby was on an enemy list, FBI enemy list, put there by Nixon. He was being surveilled. So you're also saying, okay, they couldn't touch this black man that said he raped white women, and a black man who was being surveilled by the FBI and the government. It just slipped under their radar. So there's a lot of different variables that, when you really put the magnifying glass to what is being alleged, a lot of blaring neon signs are screaming that something's not right and this doesn't make sense. And I know that a lot of people are angry because it's just, they feel like, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. A lot of people feel that they're, anti-Cosby because they're, they want to support the women. But I am in defense of the law and the legal protocols that we have in place to find out if there's a crime at all, and I don't think anyone is trained to do that, and I don't think anyone has done that, and they've jumped the gun without looking at these very serious things, like what you said, the racial aspect, and he was on the surveillance.
I mean, and, just to put my cards out on the table, I'm a skeptic in this. I'm kind of right in the middle. There are a lot of allegations, and a lot of those allegations aren't serious. Just to put it out there for the record. But the ones that are serious are, one or eight too many. So I'm kind of like, but at the same time. But at the same time, it's like, why now? Why now? Do you think that this is, with the cancellation of the Cosby Show, which is, iconic show, and, just all this dragging, Dr. Cosby through the mud, do you think this is, a deliberate attempt to ruin the legacy of Bill Cosby?
I do believe that. I mean, I did not put that, on record in anything that I created because, that's an assumption and it's my opinion. But when you really look at this, logically and consider the speed at which they did these things and the blatant hypocrisy. You have Woody Allen, you have Roman Polanski, you have Bill Clinton, you have a lot of people.
Woody Allen up.
All these people who have more serious rape allegations or more proof that they actually did this. And they've just slipped through the radar. But with Cosby, you have a cancellation of his shows, a stripping of his medals, a public witch hunt and damnation in the news every day, breaking news. There's something very deliberated about the attention and the punishment he's getting, and he hasn't even been charged with a crime. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, do I think that it's an agenda? Yeah, it's pretty obvious to me that, there's many hands involved in wanting to do this. And, you know, the punitive actions taken. I mean, I remember it was way early, before we even got to where we are now. Netflix had already canceled the show. I remember there was a week where he was supposed to be on Queen Latifah's show. He had a couple of things lined up. They just wiped it all out. So, like, this, you know, unseen corporate hand just removed everything Cosby in one sweep off of, you know, allegations.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty blatant. And like I said, Mr. Cosby, you know, Bill Cosby isn't the only person profiting off of that show. I mean, in fact, people like Tamir Rice and people like that who haven't gotten a lot of work in the last 20 years, you know, who receive, you know, royalties from the syndication. And, you know, that show is just so, you know, iconic, you know, whether you like it or not. You know, some people had issues with it or whatever. But just to kind of erase just kind of erase it like it never existed, like it wasn't so iconic. Like that struck me really, really bizarre. I mean, especially like, you know, with the Woody Allen thing. I mean, with his proof, like he married his daughter, he married his legal daughter, you know. And
I would say that was a cleanup. You know, I mean, you know, how did that happen? You know, and you have, you know, and I'm not trying to point these guys out, because I am not the type of person, I don't want to drag people's business that hadn't made court. I'm not trying to throw these people under the bus. They have their own situations. I'm defending someone who was witch hunted and thrown in the public eye. Then you have all these blaring other situations that, you know, when we compare it, does it make sense? Charlie Sheen, you know, what he was doing was, you know, and they're killing people. His shows are on air.
Yep.
You know, so, like, there's hypocrisy. There's just a lot of confusion to this situation and things that needed to be said, whether you love Cosby, hate Cosby, you know, wherever you stand, what's being done to him was wrong.
Yes, most definitely. I did want to ask one more thing, kind of on that same vein. I lost it. Yeah, get back to me in a second. Vic, you got any questions?
Oh yeah. Oh, I just want to throw out there David Bowie. You know, if we want to talk about people with allegations, he certainly has had, you know, allegations of sleeping with, really just raping, you know, children, especially, you know, 13-year-olds. You know, if you're 13, you can't consent according to white people's laws. So,
right.
Yes. Also, just I just want to put it out there. Just, you know, if on the list of the 35 richest black actors in the world, Bill Cosby is number 2. You know, he was number 1, but now he's only worth he's only worth $350 million. And now he's behind Tyler Perry. But he's also, you know, the second richest black actor in the world, and that certainly shouldn't be overlooked when, you know, all of these allegations are coming out, and he's, you know, and he's so iconic.
And you know, that's exactly what I wanted to ask.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I feel like this type of thing comes out a lot with iconic black people, like Kobe Bryant, love him, Clarence Thomas, you know. You got to think of age-old stereotypes as black males, as rapists. And, like, do you see a pattern where they take, like, very prolific black males and then, you know, kind of drag them through the mud? Like, this person, I mean, even Tiger Woods, who wasn't accused of anything, I guess, illegal,
right,
but, you know, just gross sexual misconduct. Like, do you see a pattern with, like, just accusing black males of, like, this gross sexual misconduct? You know, whether it's true or not.
Yeah, I do. You know what? I was someone who avoided, you know, even talking about, you know, such things, but it's this country's history. It's been done, and it's consistently being done, and, you know, now we are in a generation that we're in denial. The society is in denial, doesn't want to acknowledge it, but of course these things are being done. We even with the examples I just told you, with, you know, Clinton and Polanski and Sheen, and but look what's happening to Cosby. Yeah, it's very interesting. Michael Jackson, black megastars just seem to go down, and like Eddie Griffin actually, made that same point, and he said, you're not getting out clean if you're a black, successful male. You're not getting out clean, and I found what he said very interesting, and seemingly true to life.
Mm-hmm.
And just to go further, if there is an agenda, a design, I've seen that on the legal side of things too. I've seen it in the media, and I've seen it in the legal side of things too, when you even want to talk about this quote-unquote deposition that, is now available to everyone. Whether you think it's racially motivated, whether whatever, if you think it's, could be political, could be corporate, like he was trying to buy NBC, and, there's people who could have wanted to put the stop on that. Whatever you believe, is there agenda against him? Yes. And were things, the table tilted against him? Yes. Even in the deposition that was leaked out, I keep telling people it wasn't even a deposition. What that document was a court filing, and it was done by Andrea Constand's lawyer. So that wasn't the deposition. She took out parts of the actual longer deposition and created her own document that had her notes and her narration and her, she was telling what it was, her side of events. And so she took out the parts of the longer deposition that she wanted, and she filed it. It was a court filing. And so people don't even realize that document that everybody has now is even tainted and tilted away from Cosby. And how that got out, the judge, was petitioned by the media and Associated Press to unseal the documents, to unseal the deposition. There were no grounds. There were no grounds to do it. So eventually he decided, on a reason, a trumped-up reason, and he said, it's in the public's best interest because Cosby is, out talking, in public moralizing. So, basically he felt he wasn't allowed his rights to privacy, and he unsealed the documents. And so that was pretty, unconstitutional. So the thing that was settled and sealed was unsealed and handed over to the media, and what was handed over to the media was a one-sided thing that had excerpts of the deposition. Everything was against Cosby, for Cosby to look as guilty as he looks now.
Mm-hmm. And I guess not the last thing, but another thing that I kind of find a little suspicious. I mean, I know that Bill Cosby has competent legal representation, but the fact that he is, I think his most recent allegation is from 2004, sometime there. He's 85 years old now. You're gonna release all of this stuff at the same time. Kind of when he's a little too old and senile to defend himself. This, I don't know. It just kind of seems like a low blow to me.
Yeah, there's nothing good about the situation, man. It's bad on all ends. It's elder abuse. It's and even the fact that they brought this back is unconstitutional. They dropped the charges, criminal charges, on this very case already. Bruce Castor, his initial opinions on this matter was that she had inconsistent statements. I'm just saying what's on the record. He said that there were inconsistent statements on her part. This is why she ended up trying to sue him. And he said that her story changed and there were exaggerations, and furthermore, there's just not enough for him to move forward with this. So he dropped criminal charges. So that's why I ended up in civil, and they settled. And it was supposed to be gagged and sealed, and the matter was done. Yet, to fulfill a campaign promise, Kevin Steele, worked against all of that, that should have been Cosby's constitutional rights, and we're back in court for this thing that was settled and sealed, and the criminal charges have already been dropped. How you reversed all that and made it criminal again, and it's in criminal court now, all of that was illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Or shouldn't have happened, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, certainly. That was which was what I heard. That certainly stuck out to me earlier. I certainly will say on record that I do think these allegations are racially motivated, and even if we're saying, oh, it's because he wanted to NBC, it's still racially motivated because it's Bill Cosby, and we know how the system of white supremacy does work and operate, unfortunately, and especially it works on deception. And I guess I would want to ask, could you explain or expand on the ways that the truth is omitted, in the ways that people are just quick to rush to judgment and say something to the fact that, oh, there's just X amount of, there's just so many women, he must be guilty, and immediate rush to guilt. Just looking at the number of women, I actually had a back and forth with Dr. Boyce Watkins about this, and he certainly is well convinced that Bill, quote unquote, I believe Bill Cosby is a rapist. And after sending him your videos and your documentary, he started to really think about just rushing to judgment like that, even with the amount of women. He was like, oh, well, there's 35 instances of rape, and that's not even true. So would you mind expanding on how people are just quick to rush to judgment just because of that? Just something like with Michael stuff like Michael Jackson, right. That's certainly something similar.
And I have a lot of respect for Dr. Watkins. I'm familiar with his channel and some of his work. I'm glad, my video was able to, sway him somewhat. But what I would challenge everyone to do and to not forget, when you say things that the media implanted, like, oh, there's, so many accusers, some of them got to be telling the truth. That's actually giving over to a dogpiling tactic. It was tried in England with William Roach, where a lot of women decided to claim the same thing, but unlike here, in England, they all went to court. You can go to court, and it was found out that each of them lied. They wanted, it was most likely monetary gain. We have a case here in the States, a young man by the name of Tyler Host, who was thrown in prison because all these girls, I think 13 of them, came forward, said that he raped them. But now we're learning, due to all the Facebook evidence, that all of them plotted it because they were his exes and they wanted to get him back because he was a player. So they all coordinated. They were inspired by the movie John Tucker Must Die. So they all corroborated each other's story in order to get this done. Now you have something like Cosby, where all of them clearly have something that they can gain from this. Some of them have been named spokeswomen for women's group. Some of them have been paid on the table by media outlets. We know this. Some of them have been in talks to get book deals. So all across the board, you have motive. So everyone should stop before you just assume. And, the law of the land is innocent until proven guilty. Not one of these women have proven their case. In fact, and if we could talk about how the media was, falsely reporting, when you are in journalism somewhat, you understand the art of the story and storytelling. And when you have the power to tell somebody something or not, you are in control of the narrative. What they did not do was tell you that, some of these women have been jailed for deception. Shayna Lasha has been jailed for assault, prostitution, false reporting. Chloe Goings, prostitution. Tamara Green, defrauding clients. She was a lawyer who skipped, closed up shop. Like all across the board, you have a lot of women with a documented history of deception or criminal activity. All these things considered, you have to at least reserve your judgment until you know more about the evidence of each of these situations and not just decide that he's guilty, especially a black male in this country.
Agreed. D-Train?
Yeah. So, even though, like I said, again, for the record, I'm kind of a skeptic on all this, but how would you juxtapose Dr. Cosby's brand of respectability politics with all of these accusations? And not just accusations, but just, on the surface, I mean, he seems to at least be, some sort of philanderer and stuff, and he was going around the black community preaching respectability politics, not 10, 15 years ago. What would you say to black people who are just kind of like, well, you kind of reap what you sow, coming back to the black community, crawl into them for support, because you did do that a few months ago.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that, he was a womanizer and, he got around. I'm hearing different accounts of that. I'm hearing something from, and this is just, what I'm being told, that, someone who was involved with the Playboy Mansion, who's seen him around, he said the ladies used to like him. She said that it's not like the narrative that they're trying to portray. He loved the ladies, and, he was a rich, cigar-smoking guy. He wasn't a creep. They liked to be around him. And so he indulged. But that's not what's on trial here. We're trying to believe or not believe if he's a serial rapist who drugged women. Did he jump around with the women? I don't think anyone's disputing that, even his wife. Did he drug and rape these women? A lot of the stories that I've read into don't add up. You have, a group of women who weren't raped. Like a huge portion of these women were not raped. Helen Hayes, a bunch of them saying, "Oh, he touched me inappropriately. He grabbed my waist." Then you have a bunch of women who say they were drugged and raped, but yet on record you were in a consensual relationship with him for quite a while, like Beth Furia, Sean Brown, all across the board. When you dissect each of these stories individually, and I mean really give each of them individual attention, you cannot sit there and decide, all right, maybe it happened. How? Why? And it's just there's a certain respect for the law, and the legal protocol with stuff like this. Celebrities are targets. Black males are targets. The law is our only protection. And if you are made to not respect the law, I mean, there's certain protocol, and that is, you report. And yes, we know that a lot of women don't report rape due to trauma, due to, varying reasons. But you can't drop the law because of that possible variable. You still have to respect the structure that we have in order to decide if someone is guilty or innocent. You can't just run off, sensationalism and have anyone come back, in 1969, I think I'm going to go in on this. No, there's an order and a way in which things should be done. You don't grandstand 30 years later with no evidence.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, that is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know, I just feel like anybody who takes up with somebody who comes forward with some allegation 35, 40 years later, I mean, that is insane. I mean, and, like I said, I'm putting that on the record. And like I said, I have empathy for rape victims, but I just find it very interesting that, 2015, and you said you've been raped in 1980, 1970, like, or not even raped. Some of these people just, oh, well, he kissed me, and I, like you said in your video, he kissed me, and I pulled myself away from him, and and then change the story 10 years before. Oh, well, I never kissed a black man, and 10 years later, oh, well, I pulled away from him and he ran away as fast as
And I'm not like recreating events. I'm not doing a spin job that the media has been doing. I'm showing you what they're saying. And when you remove the smoke and mirrors, like a lot of what I did in the second video was not just narrate to you. Here, take a look. Listen. Listen for yourself.
That Janice Dickinson.
Yeah. Yeah, I let them speak. And it's like, when people don't understand the power of the media, and it's like sometimes it feels like it's a hopeless cause. And that's another reason why I made this video, because, I have who would be surprised to know this, I have a very, very vehement, passionate dislike for rapists, crime in general, but that includes accusers. I don't think that there's nothing worse than, besides being a victim, of someone alleging and having everyone think that you did something. And another thing that a lot of people don't realize is, the belief in stories. You underestimate the con artist. You underestimate the fact that there's people in society who are just not cut the same. There's a sociopathic and group of people, types of people who do things for money, who do things for different reasons, whatever is important to them, and that's why people get duped. And the mistake that people are making with this Cosby situation is that that's how con artists win. Rape is something that permeates through society, that touches a nerve with all of us, especially those of us who were raped ourselves. And what happens is you emotionally attach yourself to the story without looking at the evidence, without, looking at all of the relevant information. And once you attach yourself to the story emotionally, they got you. You don't look at the evidence, and that's how, these things get over, because you don't respect the law. If someone has done something, let the law go in on him to the fullest extent within the confines of the law. We are not professionals. Most people in society don't know, which I said in the video, don't know how to detect, truth from fabrications, like lawyers, don't know how to connect certain dots. Some of them were obvious, like Chloe Goins. She said a statement that was not true, so she went out quick because she made a date and an event and a time and everything that was impossible. Cosby was not there. That was done. Louisa Moritz, she made another statement that was impossible. The two of them did not appear on the same night of The Tonight Show. That one was out. That you go one by one, and you rule these things out one by one, and then you realize it comes to a point where, what, I just got, 3 or 4 or 8 or 12. It comes to a point where you have to realize, okay, I got enough people who lied or who are in on something to really question the rest and not decide that they're liars, not do anything but step back and not denounce this situation, denounce him, reserve judgment, and, do not publicly condemn and join the media bandwagon of smearing and, the witch hunt.
Let's not forget that President Obama, it got to the point where President Obama had to come out and make a comment about Bill Cosby's guilt, and I just think that was just quite an interesting scene, quite an interesting scene indeed.
That's exactly what lets you know what's up, that something's something's going on. And every time there's something Cosby, you notice it's breaking news. They interrupt normal programming to bring you breaking news. The President of the United States was forced to talk about this. Of course, someone's in on. Someone's in on this.
Very, very true. I guess to shift gears a little bit, and again, if anybody would like to, any of the listeners would like to call in, the call-in number is 917-889-2965. That's 917-889-2965. Here with Drew Hepkins. Yes, actually, and also just in addition to the Cosby documentary, there's also a lot of very, very constructive videos that are also on your YouTube channel. In just a year, is there a weave and wig addiction? There's actual we're actually asking people who wear actually asking people who wear them, which I found to be very very interesting. I guess just briefly, was there any reason that prompted you to ask to have that to make that video, and even though it doesn't have the size of the number of views of the certainly of the Cosby documentary, I think it's certainly very profound.
Right. Yeah, that was a very sensitive issue, and I tackle all subjects. I really don't care if anyone likes me or not. I'm not trying to offend anyone, of course, but there's no subject I won't dive into. And there was, no denying the fact that amongst women of color, there was definitely a surge with, weave. And so that inspired me to just go and ask around. And, there's been back and forth commentary about weave. There's been people condemning it. There's been there's a pastor who he banned it in his church. I forget the pastor's name. It was coming. Yeah, he made a valid point. He has a congregation. The congregation was working class and poor, and he said he knew personally that a lot of these women, they had kids, they didn't have a lot of money, they were struggling, yet they have these X amount of dollar weaves on every Sunday. He's like, no more. And I found that interesting. So I decided to walk around and just ask people, people in weaves, people not wearing weaves, just what they thought, or what do you think about the weave, surge phenomenon that's, still going strong. That one was a little older. I mean, I have my opinions. I spoke to, my friends. They split on the issue. Some of my friends and family. Most of my family don't wear weaves. Some, I'm sure, a couple people do. Some of my friends do. But I was very vocal about my opinions. I just, there was a strange devotion to it in the black community. There's also things that, I read other things and I dive into other, topics. And, there's one thing that's interesting that I don't think people are aware of, that there's power and energy and things you don on yourself. And especially in a lot of indigenous cultures, they knew that there was power and energy in hair. And, in India, they do certain ceremonies and where they have the hair shaved, and that same hair gets transported here for the weave industry. And I think that, black people have lost a lot of their knowledge of the universe, knowledge of things like that. Before you put things on you, there's energy in everything you do and everything you put on yourself. Do you know what you're doing? So driving attention to that issue, brought a lot of attention and talk in a blog I wrote. It was interesting to hear people's, commentary. And as the issue still rages on, there's people who have a lot of more passionate things to say, and there's people who are sticking with it.
Great. would also like to ask you about, I guess it's a conflation of two of the videos that you have. The one about the power of belief, Jose Aldo, who really took a hard L, stiff as a board, and Conor McGregor, and also Mr. Money Mayweather. Has the Mayweather hate gone too far? I guess it's a combination of question, because as of late there was certainly a back and forth between Mayweather and Conor McGregor. Mayweather, he essentially said that there's that the reason why Conor McGregor is getting praise, he's on, Instagram flashing his money, just doing the exact same thing that Mayweather's doing, probably even flashier. The guy already has 2 Bugattis. He's really, really flashing, and people are praising that and, showing him as cool, while, Mayweather's saying, I do the same thing and I'm arrogant. And he also pointed out that, the same thing with Layla Ali, and Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey has all these movie roles, and she only had, about 8-9 wins, and, she's, on the cover of the video game, and, while, Layla Ali had the looks, the brains, the name recognition, and never had the superstardom, at least as quick as Ronda Rousey. And Conor McGregor certainly had a response that I found to be very, 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 very interesting. I just wanted to get your your opinion on Conor McGregor's response to Mayweather. Let me find. Oh yes, he said to never bring race up between him again. He said that he's an Irishman and his people have been his people have been oppressed. So therefore, don't talk to him about prejudice, and his people have been oppressed. And
Mayweather said this?
No, actually, Conor McGregor said in response to Mayweather that to never bring race up again with him, and that he is an Irishman. Yes, that he is oppressed as he is an Irishman, and that he'll fight him anytime. Of course, throwing that out there, but saying that because he's Irish, and that there was a point in time where the last name McGregor would have gotten him killed. So therefore, to say that there's something to do with racism, don't talk to him about it. And I just would like to get your opinion, since you certainly have some very great and insightful, both blogs, videos on MMA and boxing. So I just wanted to get your opinion.
My opinion, I'm a fan of both guys. I like them both. I respect them both as fighters. About what Conor McGregor said, rubbish. That's a meme that's been going around, and that has some validity to it. When the Irish got here, they were treated like dogs. They were treated very bad. When anybody came here, they weren't treated too well. The Italians as well. But it was, let's say shorter-lived. It's not in any way comparable to the black experience, and I'm sure if he really searched himself, he would understand that. Like, after a while, in this racist, history that we have, there was a lot of discouragement from, in the history of this country, like in the 1600s and the 1700s. They don't write this in the history books. They don't tell you this, but there was a lot of interbreeding. There was a lot of running off to be with the indigenous, the Native Americans, and in order to curb that from happening, they started to, systematically invite more people into the white dominant race, and they did that by laws. You can't marry a black person. You can't do this. You can't do that. And the more they oppressed black people, the more they separated from black people. But initially, the Irish that came here, they weren't racist, and if they liked the black people, they would chill with them. That's how they were. So racism was taught, and by laws and writing, American bullshit, they eventually were, separated socially from black people. So the next generations of American-born Irish and immigrants were more and more, socialized into the white infrastructure that we have now that did not really go through the oppression. One or two generations, that got here didn't have a good time. But it's just nowhere comparable to the black experience, slavery. I mean, it's just not, reasonable.
Well, yes, certainly it's not. There's no comparison at all, and certainly, it just find it very peculiar because yes, certainly, white people have their vetting process, with who is and isn't white, regardless of your phenotype. But now they have to make some concessions because of demographics. There, of course, that exists, but a lot of slave masters were were Irishmen, quote unquote Irishmen, and and a lot of those signs did say, well, at least we're white, during some of the unionizing days and looking for work and things of that nature. So there's. And certainly over in Ireland, they have their of course they white people of course have their I guess I would say racist turf wars, and they have their own beefs with each other and hierarchy and racial hierarchy. So yes, to say in England England is doing this and that to Ireland and this and that. Yeah, there's there's lots of white on white crime. I know, shocking, but there's lots of that, and that certainly that history is there, and it's still alive. But that's just for Conor McGregor to really say that and to really just to do that. I really think that I really suspect that it's an act of racism for him to just say, oh well, I'm a if you're talking if you're Mayweather and you're bringing up a valid point about the perception of him and the perception of him because he's white, because we're not in Ireland right now. We're in the U.S. He's a white person, and he's classified as a person, and that's why he's so popular, and why at one point in time I certainly was thinking that he was getting a lot of his push because he was his name was McGregor, and there's a lot of white people in this area of the world who have white and have Irish ancestry, so therefore they want to see him out there, and that's part of his marketability, obviously. And I don't find that. Yeah, so
I don't know if he gets that.
Well, he also knows PR, and he's also white, so he also knows what to say and what not to say. So he can. I feel like that's such a cop out on his part. With him saying that, it could be an act of racism to tell a black person to really say, oh, well, I've been oppressed, and a white person to really just make it about themselves and, to really just play the white victim. And also the comments weren't also just about him. They're also about Ronda Rousey, who, is, got an SB and, had to, actually throw it in his face in her the post speech, and things of that nature. I just think it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, whether it's racism, I don't think he's overtly racism. I just think it's an ignorance. It's a socially engineered stupidity that he believes. I think that, there's a lot of defensive tactics that are being socially engineered into society. And, people don't want to walk around with white guilt or, feeling that they have a better lot in life than this group of people. They don't want to hear it. It's the truth. They don't like it. They don't want to hear about it, but it's the truth that, they strategically keep out of their communities. And it's I think he really believes this. I don't think that he, has, I don't know. So I can't say he's not racist, or he wasn't being racist. But it's off. His comment is off.
Certainly off indeed, and I personally, I don't believe that any white person is really ignorant of racism. If you're white, then you already know enough to know what's going on and know that you certainly hold more power than a non-white person. And if your name is Conor McGregor and you look like that, and people are reacting to you like that, you certainly know what it means to be a white person. And I think that a lot of the times white people use deception. And I just was having a back and forth about the term white privilege and why it's certainly very detrimental. And I see a lot of the expansion of the use of that word in certainly in recent months, and certainly over the past year, that everybody, white privilege, instead of just calling it straight up racism, calling it white domination, calling it what it is, using a term invented by Peggy McIntosh, who certainly has her own agendas. And had her own agendas, and it's really to promote quote unquote white ignorance, and really to promote the system is just on automatic, and it's just so institutional, and it's really just to take the blame of the everyday. Take away the blame from the everyday white person, Julie, Susie at the office. Yet they could be a racist, but. That's just certainly, I believe.
And it's there's an interesting thing. I don't know what you think of him, either of you. Is it Tim Weiss?
Yes, we certainly are very, very familiar with Tim Wise here on the program. I forgot what what he called me, but he certainly name called me after I had an exchange with him and certainly with other non-white people. So yeah, I'm very familiar with Tim Wise.
Well, I would imagine him to have very interesting commentary on that, and I believe it's him. I hope I'm crediting the right person. I believe it's him who had a very compelling piece of research that was so telling of where we are today. And in 1860s, they did a poll, like after slavery, if there was problems, race problems, that were amiss. And the majority of white America said no. And then they did it again. They polled it in the 1960s. And most of white America said, we don't have any race problems. This is the 60s where they couldn't vote. People were forced on the back of the bus. So there were significant problems. But white America didn't feel that they were. And, he presented the fact that that's the same statistics. They're saying the same things today. What problems? Stop complaining. And I just thought that was very compelling, that it was the same, disparity in the 1860s, when there was obviously, when you look back retrospectively, yes, there was a problem. There were people getting lynched. And in the 1960s, people getting hosed and hosed and chased with dogs. Yes, there was definitely some serious societal issues, race issues. And now people are just as blind to them. People don't want to hear. And I wouldn't say all, because, I have many white friends and, some who are a little, in their community, and some that do get it. And, they do understand, so, but I think there is a definite, denial that happens, and, from his comment, it definitely speaks of just that.
Agreed. D-Train?
I think that's the most valuable research Tim Wise ever did. But I'm definitely not a fan of him, but that was a valuable piece of research. I suppose kudos to him for finding it. Definitely not a fan of him. He said some off-the-wall things to a bunch of black people, including Vickiss. Yeah.
Yeah, my opinion of him hasn't been fortified. I just seen a number of things with him and read a bunch of things that he penned, and was pretty much in agreement with it. So, yeah, I have no negative thoughts.
Are you familiar with Dr. Francis First Weldon?
I'm sorry?
Are you familiar with Dr. Frances Cress Welsing?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on her if you were familiar with her. She actually just passed. I guess if you get a chance, just look up the Cress theory of color confrontation. She actually has a debate that is it's posted. It was on Tony Brown's Journal. She has a debate with Dr. William Shockley. I'm sure you know him. He invented the field effect transistor. Anyway, he got heavy into kind of eugenics-based race theory in the 70s. And she debated him in the 70s. It's an interesting watch. So, if you ever get time, if you remember it, just check that out. But she just passed. So, if you knew of her work or her, I wanted to get your thoughts on it, but you don't.
Yeah, definitely. Dr. Frances
Cress Welsing.
Welsing, okay.
Mm-hmm. Author of the ISIS Papers.
Okay.
Yes. I also wanted to ask you, you can go to DruHepkins.com. It's actually one of your blogs. I am not a minority, and I thought this was a very of course here on Reckless we have a passion for a real passion for the term for words and definitions and for paying attention to words and the importance of words, and actually. I guess segueing from Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's theory, the term, the label minority, and I am not a minority. Would you mind, explaining what prompted you to write this blog, and what do you mean by at least the title, I am not a minority?
I'm not a minority. There's a lot of power in words. There's a lot of magic in words. There's a lot of coding in words. And I remember questioning a lot of things growing up in school. I was one of the only black students in all white private schools. And, when certain subjects came up, I would feel the weight of just about everybody looking at me when it came to something of race. And I remember hearing, in American history, and just little terms, minority. And, I never forgot the feeling that I had when, those words were said. And, later in life, I started to reflect back on just the power of those words and where they came from, what they mean. And the more I made sense of it, the more I realized that a lot of words are just remnants of old world stupidity in white supremacy. And when you take the word and you apply it to a different situation, you see the blatant hypocrisy. I mean, were the white population in South Africa, were they minorities? No. Is actually the situation was flipped. They were the minority and the ruling class. The word minority, just the word itself, suggests that you're some sort of inferior sect of a more legitimate majority. So the word is just gives you some kind of passive label or weakness, and it's like a minority of what? What is the number of my race that exists? I am a minority. So the word itself, the invention and application of the word was racially coded. So I don't accept it, and anyone that refers to me as such, I do correct them, and I don't use the word myself. I try not to.
I certainly don't identify as a quote-unquote minority either. I certainly don't use that term, certainly because it's very vague, and for a lot of the same reasons that you illustrated in your blog post, but certainly because it's just inaccurate. And Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she heavily stressed that white people are the minority on the planet. They are, I believe, between 8 and 9% of the world's population. Everybody knows if a white person reproduces with a non-white person, that child is very, very most likely going to be considered a non-white person, which also puts their entire group, makes them more vulnerable, which produces a reason why they need racism. But certainly that's when there's so many articles where, in the year 2100, there's going to be Africa's going to be the world's largest population, and it's going to be, over, X billion people just that, in Africa. And there's always, articles and studies and research on about problems with white fertility and the aging white population and the graying white population. This is certainly something that's inherent and is certainly a factor into their behaviors towards non-white people and their fears of non-white people. And that's certainly pointing out the term the minority certainly is there's a lot of it's very contradictory, but certainly under white supremacy we are marginalized, by white people, but certainly that term is just inaccurate. And you also mentioned that you prefer using the term people of color. Would you mind explaining why you prefer using that term, and what do you exactly mean when you say people of color?
Well, I mean, we are people of color. I mean, we have a higher, we're more melanated. So quite literally, we are people of color. And, it's just a matter of option. You know what? I don't mind the distinction, the racial distinction, but it's just a matter of what to refer to us as. And, I just kind of stopped at people of color. It's less, offensive. There's no covert, passivity. It's just, it is what it is, and it's quite literal. And I'm just more comfortable referring to myself or people, like me as people of color. It's more, it has more to it. It's not passive. People of color.
Mm-hmm. And I guess just based on your blog post, that would be synonymous with non-white, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Gotcha. So a white person couldn't be a person of color, could they?
Well, this is their system. I mean, if I in this, we have to categorize to a certain extent, and if I have to, I'm just choosing that. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's not something that we need to categorize ourselves in this system.
Gotcha. Wasn't referring to any Rachel Dolezal situations or anything like that.
That's another situation.
Yes. Actually, I actually found what I found interesting, and certainly was surreal seeing again, was a lot of the Eric Gardner footage that you have on your page, both the March for his death in Staten Island, and just the full death video, interspliced with the funeral, which is very
right.
Certainly something to behold, and certainly myself being so close to the city, and just being in the New York area, knowing that's something that was a lot closer to home than need be. But yes, just with the Eric Garner videos, and just with the recent charges, against one of the officers. Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you believe, now justice will prevail because of that?
No, I don't believe justice is being done at all. I'm very concerned for the state of this country, of this country's future. I think that, we're in a very interesting time, and things are going to peak, because we're governed and ruled by psychopathic entities that do not have a God conscious in them. So they are going to do wrong, and they're going to try to get, they're not going to try to seek justice or do the right thing until, society as a whole just had enough. And I think we're getting to that point where there will be no justice because they are literally incapable of administering justice. They can't do it. You have a situation where, like, if law from start to finish, that was a bad situation. Just like the Cosby thing. There's a million reasons why this is bad, no matter what side of the fence you stand on. And first and foremost, understanding the law, you're not allowed to spring on someone. When you watch the video, and it's on video, you don't gang stalk someone and then arrest them. You have to catch them in the act of doing a crime. They didn't tell you that in the news. It's another thing where, you realize the news is compromised and tainted. They don't report the news. They lie to you. Had they been telling you the truth, they would have told you that, no, he wasn't selling cigarettes. He is a man who they knew, and they arrested him for selling cigarettes in the past. And because these police officers have unconstitutional quotas that they don't tell you and admit to you in public, they go around looking to start stuff because, they have pressure to do that because they have quotas. And if we all understood that they have quotas, we'd understand a lot of the problems. But I digress. So they're standing around him, and, he's saying to them clear as day, you're always messing with me, and I'm tired. It stops today. And, he was in his right to say that. He said, I'm not doing anything. And they still surrounded him and jumped him anyway. So, boom, right there you have an unlawful arrest. If he sued them, he would have won. And then you have the officer who jumps on him from behind and puts him in the illegal chokehold that was banned in 1993. So you have an unwarranted arrest. Another situation is the illegal chokehold. So that's strike 2. And then you kill him. He dies. So that's strike 3. So you have, every step of the way, we're getting worse. You're getting worse. And the situation, gets worse when an ambulance comes. They don't do CPR. That's not related to the NYPD, I guess. But then, when you analyze the situation retrospectively, everything done wrong from start to finish, there's now an indictment. That lets you know that, at this point in time, so we can have no faith in the powers that be because they cannot. They're psychopathic, and they cannot administer justice.
Agreed. Even today, Eric Garner's daughter said, instead of charging a black supervisor, why not charge the white officers that killed my father? So I think that, and that's also something that I see, even with the Freddie Gray case, with everything that happened in the backlash, the people who were charged, the people that the pictures that you see the most of, and the first person that's really out there, is a black driver. Where it was clearly he was really fucked up before they put him in that van.
Right.
But the way that they're even if somebody's going down for this, it's still going to be a black person in jail.
Wow.
So it's another black family, that's taken out, and I see that pattern even in this Eric Garner situation because one of the supervisors, the sergeants, who wasn't even in, he wasn't actually physically involved with the incident, is being charged rather than the white officers, that choked him out heavy.
They jumped on him, and putting their knee on his head, and he's saying clearly, but he's saying clearly, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And, the bystanders that are watching are saying, yo, and the officer's like, no, he's all right. And it's just, it leaves you speechless. And, and there's a police officer, and God, I cannot remember his name, but he came out speaking a white police officer came out speaking and admitting that the system is racist. And, a lot of the players involved, some of them are racist, some of them are not. Some of them are just players in a racist system. And the system is geared toward targeting minorities. I say that word again, black people of color, because they are the more less protected. They are the more less connected, but what they're not telling you is that these police forces have quotas, and they got to get somebody. So who are they going to go after? They're not going to go to, Upper East Side. They're going to go to the ghettos. They're going to go to the black neighborhoods where these people are not connected. Their brothers and their uncles are not lawyers and doctors. They're going to black neighborhoods to make their quotas, and they antagonize situations.
That if we're talking about the same guy, that white guy was actually a Baltimore City police officer.
Right.
He was a former Baltimore City police officer. So I'm very familiar with that. So speaking of psychopaths in charge, I wanted to know, I guess, what are your predictions for the presidential election? Seeing that the two front runners are Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and do you think that Mr. Trump or Mrs. Clinton has a chance of winning? And I guess, what are your predictions?
I would say Hillary. I just have a hard time believing Trump could go all the way. I thought he was in the race to eventually strategically be a straw man eventually. When he was, doing his racist rants, and, I just didn't find him to be electable. I never thought that he was someone the party would, any party would back. I just don't think he's ever going to be president. So I would say Hillary, but on top of that, I would say it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they elect. The system is still the same. The agenda is still the same. They're on the same team. I just think this is all public theater.
Yep, most definitely. I do think, though, I think that the powers that be kind of underestimated the white populist segment of the population who's after Trump. I actually do think he has a legitimate chance of winning, and I think that's something that the white elites didn't think was possible, but it's seeming more and more possible day after day. But for the record, I do think that he was put out there to kind of guarantee that Hillary Clinton would be elected to the presidency. Yeah, but I think they may have underestimated the populist sentiment. But I guess we'll see what the Electoral College decides. Once the popular votes are in, because they can always go against public opinion, and people don't know that. So.
Well, yeah. Well, they can also, influence public opinion. And how they would do that, like I knew they had, why is he skipping my mind? The black candidate, Republican candidate,
Dr. Carson.
What was that?
Dr. Ben Carson.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I just drew a blank. I knew they had him up early just for the spectacle. Yeah, we're post-racial and blah, blah, blah. And then they just maneuver these people out of the front spots through, they'll over-sensationalize a stupid comment, dramatize a scandal. They have a way of steering who the top 2 or 3 they wanted all along to be there. And they're going to do just that. But, I feel Hillary is the most likely.
Well, to D-Train's point, when they can make us think that not us, but they can make a sizable number of people and think that Bill Cosby raped 50 women and got away with it, then I don't think there's anything with that too underestimated about Donald Trump, who is worth how many billions of dollars, and is very deeply invested in television's pockets. Could make it to this far. Especially when everything is meticulously manipulated. Certainly. And I agree that it really doesn't matter, because it's still it's going to be white supremacy. I do certainly think that there's two sides where white people argue with each other about how they want to run their system. Do they want to run it liberally, or do they want to be very conservative and clamp down and double down on their overt white supremacy? And I certainly I think it's interesting. You say Hillary Clinton is going to be very likely, and I just see a lot of a connection with her, and just a lot of the agenda, so-called white feminist agendas, and how that bleeds into what's going on with Bill. It circles back into what's going on with Bill Cosby and things of that nature, and really and every and that with the and I guess I would ask you, do you notice a trend of that, certainly a feminist trend, certainly a white feminist trend, and do you think that relates to how they're treating Bill Cosby? I know they had the street harassment controversy not too long ago with it was essentially black males were harassing a white woman who walked down a street in Manhattan and stuff like that. Do you think that there's just certainly a feminist agenda, and do you think that they use certainly males and black males as a way of maneuvering that?
Yes, I do. I'm not a fan of modern day or neo-feminism, whatever you call it. Once upon a time, it had its purpose, and it was reasonable. And I don't think anyone would be against its what it wanted to do in its inception, and the right to vote, and a lot of these women that were feminists back then and in the 1800s were family women and wives, and they weren't trying to do not trying to be wives. They were just wanted a certain amount of rights and respects as human beings. Now the agenda is quite different. The narrative is quite different, and the results of what they're doing is quite different, and it's causing lots of negative effects in society. And I think a lot of people are realizing that. And is there a spin on, black males? Yeah, that you just mentioned, that catwalk. There's a lot of things that were the brainchild of feminist movements that just happened to attack black males. Another one was the domestic violence run that they had going for a while that only seemed to target black male athletes. And so a lot of the things that they push and they're behind, it targets a lot of black males. And, when you just go back and just look at, different people who were domestic abusers, John Lennon, Josh Brolin, there's so many different people. But, you see people becoming vocal, and it was Floyd Mayweather, and Michelle Beadle was talking for a whole segment on HBO about how we shouldn't support him, and just this energy that goes into the black public people that I see, and it's really blatant. It's shockingly blatant. And with Cosby, they were out. Now was out with bullhorns. It was like before anything was known about who these women were. And when I found out the histories of some of these people, versus other people who were accused of rape, or there was no petitions and marches against Woody Allen or anyone else. these people had so much things on them to at least say, hey, this is terrible. Even if you think he did it, hold on, let me just learn a little bit more. No, they were out in the droves. They were standing in front of his speaking dates, and with the bullhorns, and Bill Cosby, and yeah, they were very active. And I did find that to be interesting.
Wow, very interesting indeed. Very interesting indeed. I guess before we depart, I guess I had a few more for you, a couple more questions for you. I did want to ask you about the Darren Wilson video that you had on your channel. I think that was also something that was very extensive, and certainly confirmed a lot of my suspicions and clear some things up. It's entitled, for those who are listening, the truth about Darren Wilson and the Ferguson PD. I guess in short, what are your thoughts on how the Mike Brown scenario played out, and do you think that indeed he was charging full force, with bullets bouncing off of him, things of that nature, towards a police officer?
I think that insults the intelligence of the. It should insult the intelligence. Well, you know what? Let me retract that. I just found that to be absolutely ridiculous. And the rapper Immortal Technique actually summarized it perfectly. And what he said is exactly what I think we have going on here, which is that, he probably didn't have to shoot the guy, but, most of white America is probably like, what, this guy was a piece of trash thug. It would be a shame for this guy to go down for the likes of him. And that's what he said, and I kind of agree with that narrative. Because when you look at the facts, when you look at the evidence, when you look at what happened, and you look at what he said, and you really piece everything together, you still, no matter what narrative you come up with, it just looks like, no, he shouldn't have shot the kid. He didn't need to shoot the kid. And he shot him from a distance multiple times that he can't escape from, even if you consider his tale or whatever the police department is saying. You cannot, move away from the fact that he was at a distance, and Darren Wilson decided to pump multiple shots at him. The story doesn't make sense. There was an eyewitness. There was a few who corroborate the same thing. They didn't listen to those eyewitnesses. They produced one of their own, quote-unquote, witnesses, and that's what they played in the media as multiple eyewitnesses that didn't agree. No, they produced someone, but everyone who did see it did agree. And they agreed that, I forget the girl's name, she didn't know Mike Brown. She saw the situation. She saw that they were struggling. He was on the car, and she said it looked like he was trying to pull away, and Wilson was trying to pull him in. And then and Mike Brown broke free and took off running. Darren Wilson took off out of the car after him, and then pumped rounds. He turned around, put his hand up, and he finished him off with some more shots. That's what I believe. When you want to be a detective of sorts and consider his story, it really doesn't make sense. Even Nancy Grace, which I was surprised, Nancy Grace called bullshit on that story. You want to tell me that, when you see someone that's lying and someone who knows the law, how they lie, it tells you that they're lying. When, certain people like lawyers or police officers, they know exactly what needs to be there in order for the lie to get him off. And that's exactly what happened. They have a story where he looked like he had his hand in his pocket, like he had a gun. Who does that when approaching police officer? Make believe that I have a gun, I have a hand in my pocket. And then for some strange reason, when I'm running away, I'm going to turn around and charge at him, the man with the gun.
It just makes no sense.
Yeah. You know,
for the record, wasn't that racist white woman who, like, in her journal, like 3 days before, said that she didn't like black people and she didn't know why, and she was going to get black people a chance, or something to that effect.
Right.
Yeah. So, enough said about that. And then she said in her deposition or whatever that he ran away and then turned and like almost like a bull, like how the bulls like kick in the dirt before they charge motherfuckers. And I'm like, are we serious here? Like, we really buy this story? And I mean,
right.
And I think the most despicable thing is that ABC allegedly paid Officer Wilson $500,000 to appear and tell his story.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I find particularly despicable. But
really
yet they couldn't pay that black woman that slapped up her child in Baltimore anything to appear.
My goodness, I didn't even know about the $500,000.
Yeah, just fucking trifling. I mean, you gotta excuse my French, but it's pretty disgusting.
Wow, that's shocking. I didn't know that he. And talking about the media, the questioning was pathetic. It really was pathetic, and this is why these guys, George Stephanopoulos, Anderson Cooper. These are not stupid men. These are seasoned journalists that just gross omission. That they're being guided and controlled by entities. They're not asking certain questions. And, George, he was just throwing softballs at Darren Wilson, didn't ask him any tough questions, and didn't challenge him on the ridiculously of his statements. And it was for presentation. That's why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just for sort of a juxtaposition to that, I recall when Mr. Bob Costas interviewed Jerry Sandusky, and like those were like very like pointed questions that you would typically expect from a member of the media. But yeah, watching that Darren Wilson interview, it's just kind of like this is kind of this whole interview is kind of contrived,
Right. And it's just, you can't really trust the media. You can't really trust the media narratives and the whole Darren Wilson. So the truth isn't, shady. It doesn't have to be afraid. It doesn't have to be so sneaky. And that is everything that the media is with Cosby, with stories like this. They're sneaky. They're afraid of letting you know certain things because the deck of cards fall and they know it.
Most definitely.
Yes, and it just I always think of the contrast of just of Tamir. I just thought of Tamir Rice and how that fits perfectly into the same with the same conclusions and the same scenario of not delivering justice, and certainly the reporting of it. And I saw a video on MSNBC of like, oh well, look at this replica gun, and really just still reinforcing that Tamir Rice kind of deserved it. And we all heard of the one of the officers getting suspended for recently calling Tamir Rice's mom a dumb bitch. Don't by putting up a meme saying which gun is the fake one? Too late, you're dead. And then said don't let your son play with fake guns, you dumb bitch. So I think and this is of course a white officer. So having that, and just really she lost her son, and now she's a dumb bee, and just really it's just really very distasteful.
And I got to get this in here that Ohio is an open carry state, and they thought that he was of age. Draw your own conclusions from that.
Wasn't there something, I don't know if there's truth to what I read, that there was some kind of emotional problems with that officer?
I believe so.
I don't, I'm not putting, I thought I read that there was something, up where he was fired from a previous law enforcement job, and then he got
That is
rehired.
true. That is true.
Okay. So that is true. So he had emotional issues, and he was fired from one job because of that, and he kept applying for other, departments, applying to other departments, and they finally hired him and didn't look at his record, and he was the one that ended up shooting Tamir Rice. So there's no accountability. There's no, they just, let these things happen, and they just further victimized the victim, and this is just
and just for common sense sake, this guy was fired from a small town police department for those issues, and then he gets hired by a major city. Like, something there is just way, way wrong.
Wow. Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, just to get the full quote in, it's Tamir Rice's mama just want money. Let's make the proper changes. Raise your kids not to play with fake guns, stupid bitch. All this media because they are not getting what they want. Again, please, anyone who does not like what I post, unfriendly me or block me. You're not worth my time.
Who said this now?
The same officer. Officer Cicero.
The guy that, this is, it's not really shocking. A while ago it would have shocked me, but that's when I didn't, we're not all the same. We're not all the same. We don't all have the same thing in us. Some people don't have the same range of emotions we have. Some people are psychopathic and don't have the same respect for human life and the sanctity of human life. And you could kill someone and then curse his mom. That's who he is.
I also find it interesting that in American culture in general, it's usually encouraged for children, white children, to play with guns, whether they be real or airsoft or BB or paintball guns, and this is just a part of American culture. But Tamir Rice, nope. Black, guns are for white people only. That's really the only message I can really, that's really the only message I can really extract from that type of sentiment.
Yeah.
D-Train?
Oh man, that's pretty much all I got.
Yes. I actually did want to ask, are there any upcoming projects, or are there any, do you have any new documentaries that you're working on coming up in the future that we should be looking out for?
Yeah, I have a few. The one that I'm working on right now, I'm going to release one on the deposition, the Cosby deposition. I was going to move away from discussing Cosby because, he has the trial going on, and, honestly, I wanted to do other things, but there's so much commentary on the deposition. When you see people, especially people on my blogs and in my videos, people who come around, I respect argument, debate, I should say. I respect conversation and debate, but I don't have, a lot of tolerance for, the regurgitation of false information, of the media spins, and you have so many people who come around saying the same media regurgitated nonsense. Oh, all these women can't be lying. Oh, where there's smoke is fire. Oh, but he admitted it. No, he didn't admit it. They made you believe that he admitted it. Whatever, what the deposition said. I mean, I know I went over it before, but what the deposition said was, first of all, it was an excerpt from a longer deposition where he only admitted that he shared his drugs. That's all it meant. And every person who has done drugs probably shared them too. It wasn't an admission of drugging women. So the media put that out there and implied that they combined that with what he was being accused of, and they implied that he may have drugged women, and everyone just ran off because the media did its job. They know that he didn't say that, but they know that they can make everyone believe that by playing with the literal words, and they did that. And everybody's running around saying, oh, but he admitted it. No, he did not. Stop saying that. So I'm doing a video explaining the deposition from start to finish. Another video that I'm working on that just happens to relate to Cosby, but I think it's all the more relevant to release it now, and it's the case of Tyler Host, who is a 19-year-old boy who I mentioned earlier, who was he was accused of rape by 13 young teenage girls, but these girls conspired to do this, and there's Facebook correspondence that prove this. They planned this, and the kid, 19, he's in jail right now. He's been in jail for the whole year because of these lies, because, we have a culture, and feminism had a definite stronghold in this kind of belief system where, someone accuses you, you believe it. And that's exactly what happened, and we have a guy that's in jail. So I'm going to release that. And something much lighter, I'm going to get back to sports. I'm going to release something on Usain Bolt.
Oh, nice.
Cool. Speaking of sports, do you follow the NFL much?
No, I don't actually. I'm mostly with the combat sports.
Okay. Most definitely.
Oh, so you have. Well, do you? I just want to ask, just a straight up question about with the UFC. Do you think that Dana White, a lot of the match? Do you think any of the matchmaking he does is biased? Is biased towards white fighters, and do you think there's inherent racism in mixed martial arts?
There's inherent racism, period. Whether it's Dana White, I would be hesitant to accuse him, because, at the end of the day, there's also a bottom line to think of, Andre Silva, John Jones. There's a lot of people who are not being heralded, but there's also the people aspect, who the people want to see. And, is it racism? Is it, it's hard to say. They have a typecast that they want to promote for monetary reasons. Is it Dana White's racism? Is it, the fans? I don't know. There are favorites. There are people who, it's just, it's really hard to say. I would have to see something more blatant.
Gotcha.
Before you depart, I know you said you didn't follow NFL, but are you familiar enough with the Cam Newton situation that happened maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, where he did the dance? It's called the dab. You dab on him.
The what?
and he did a celebration dance in the end zone, and a Tennessee Titans fan, a white woman, wrote a letter to Cam Newton. Kind of.
Who are you talking about? I didn't hear the name.
Cam Newton.
Yeah, Cam Newton. He's a black quarterback.
Okay. I didn't hear the name. Yeah. No,
yeah.
Yeah, anyway, he did a touchdown celebration dance, and there was an angry Tennessee Titans fan, a white woman, who kind of wrote a scathing letter to Cam Newton saying, this is inappropriate and gyrating. Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. I didn't know if you followed him enough to know about this, because this is a pretty big story. Even a little bit outside of the sports world. But the same weekend, Carson Palmer told the St. Louis Rams fans to suck it, and nothing.
Wow. Well, what was it? I didn't hear about that. But what was the nature of the dance? Was it anything about the dance that was
No. Well, personally, I don't think it's called doing the dab. I mean, I personally don't think there's anything vulgar or anything about the dance. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, I guess I could see a YouTube video to you about it. I mean, it's pretty harmless dance in my opinion.
But D-Train, a Negro shouldn't be dancing like that on television. It's inappropriate, and a daughter might see. So, I mean, if you want to just cut to what it's about, it's really, that's the kind of reactions that we get, from white people when they see that kind of stuff. But in the same vein, it's just a lot of that dancing. There's a lot of viral videos of, there was a viral video of a white teacher dancing, and it was just such a big deal, with his black students, and it's just some of that is just very, very non-constructive, and I'll leave it at that. Certainly. Actually. D-Train?
Oh, no, I'm good.
All right. Oh, yeah. You said combat sports, and of course, I can't, let it end without at least asking about Money Mayweather. He's certainly, a legend in his own time, and he's always he always backs it up, and you even have the video has the Mayweather hate gone too far, and even after his retirement, the hate is still coming for him, and it's just interesting because even a few years ago, I said, they're just going to do something. There's guarantee that that Mayweather's going to be behind bars within the next 2 years, and lo and behold, 6 months later, they had him, arrested on some charge, and with the mugshot and all. So it's just, that's the kind of thing. But since you pay close attention and have analysis of boxing, what do you think? What do you make of Mayweather's career? And do you think a lot or even all of the criticism is because he's black and very vocal about it?
You know what? I have to. I'm a realist. I have to tell the truth, and I do believe that it is. History repeats itself. This is very similar to Jack Johnson, and even in the descriptions, the criticisms. Jack Johnson, was the first black heavyweight boxer of all time, and he had a very elusive style, and he had a way of not being hit and hitting, and it frustrated white America to the point where his criticism was demeaning, and they just said he's sneaky and he's this, and they tried to discredit him. But then when gentleman Jim Corbett, I think, had the same style, he was heralded, and look how clever and intelligent a fighter he is, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like history repeating itself, where the guy, he's not a slugger. I get that. But if you know the sport of boxing and you appreciate boxing as a science, he's excellent at what he does. He's a defensive fighter. He's a defensive master. He counters. He's intelligent in the ring, and he fights his fight. And, a lot of his fights are not exciting, but not because of him. There's other fighters in the past who were like that, Nickelodeon elites. There's people who have their fight. If he were to fight, like caveman style and bang in the ring and lose, would that make them happy? I don't know. But he's won. He wins. He's undefeated. And he does it in a way where he really outclasses them. I'm sorry. I've seen him excellent when he fought Canelo Alvarez. He made him look like an amateur. And I have to admit, I was a little concerned. I was like, that boy packs a punch. And he's ready. And, I didn't know what was going to happen. When I saw the fight play out, I'm like, wow, Mayweather really, truly is in a class of his own. And I respect that. And just as a fighter, I'm not heralding him as a man or a person. As a sports fan, as a fighter, the guy's a master at his craft. But you have a people who just won't give him his due. They make these stupid excuses. They're so annoying. They're on my blogs all day making up nonsense and crap and just can't give the man his due. And it's like, I hate to see that when people just can't give credit to someone who's earned it. Whether you're not always going to like the person, but you can't take back what they've achieved. 30 world champions, undefeated. And you have to just, there's some racial undertones with what I've seen and heard people say. So I'm not talking, nonsense. What I'm saying is coming from, I guess you could say, research, because I'm a content poster. I engage people every day, and I hear the comments that they tell me, and you better believe a lot of these morons, they come out with racially charged statements, and so yes, I see where it's coming from. So from my own research, yes, there's a racial undertone to the Mayweather hate, because they tell me so in ways without actually telling me.
Much agreed. I certainly, certainly see that, and it's just, even like we were speaking about earlier, it's still ongoing. Even when he says, outwardly, racism still exists. He said that, it's just, even when he's saying, and people agree with him, it's still, there's backlash, and Conor McGregor, it's just, flipping out and challenging him and stuff. It's, it just compounds the racism, and I see
Skip Bayless agreed with him, right?
Yes, Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless said that it is Ronda. He said he actually agreed with him. Racism does exist, and Ronda Rousey did get rise to superstardom over Layla Ali because she's white. She's marketable.
Bayless did that.
Yes, and it was actually and of course he prefaced, the whole. He certainly prefaced it by dissing Mayweather, saying that he thinks he was disrespectful for saying something about Muhammad Ali, doing the rope-a-dope and all that. So he had to get at Stephen A. Smith, about that. But he eventually agreed.
That's Skip Bayless. I haven't figured him out. I don't know if that's his role he's assigned to. I don't know. But the Mayweather hate is so irrational. And just he just won't dial it back.
And I think that ties. I don't know. I think that also ties into conversely, looking at the current right now, Mike Tyson Love. While he's going, he's doing interviews, and he's really putting himself down a lot of the time, just making fun of himself, and really really doing anything for for a dollar, and really putting himself out there. and he'll make fun. He'll be honest about it, and the video of him busting his ass on the hoverboard was went viral and was a big deal. Which the whole hoverboard thing has its own racial overtone, undertones, in itself. But with that, and they have a whole entire cartoon dedicated to Mike Tyson, where he's he's in a fake a Scooby-Doo parody, and he's running around acting dumb, and being everything is just blatantly racist in the program, and he knows that. It just got renewed for a new season. I think that is really part of it was just really really I guess disappointing to see when I saw I did watch your top 10 greatest heavyweight boxers of all time, and he was very highly ranked, and you did say that in his prime he could probably destroy everybody on that list.
I believe that. I believe it, and that actually becomes a big debate with a lot of diehards that don't want to give him credit. They believe he was hyped. He was hyped. He was hyped. But what I think he did in the 80s, based on a lot of what was true, the way he was dismantling, it's just who was it? Larry Holmes. Leon Spinks, men that never really went down. The way he was dismantling people was such a spectacle. Now, when you can deliver, when a star is born and they see your star, they're going to help you out. They're going to throw you some tin cans. They're going to do that. But the way you deliver was so impressive with Mike Tyson that I believe, he could have gone a lot farther if certain things were in place. A strong management team, I think a lot of things went wrong for him. And I don't think he had the mental toughness like a Muhammad Ali. I think just life crashed down on him. With fame, with his money came more problems with a lot of different things just kind of knocked him out. And I thought you could see it the same way. Like I have a video about Conor McGregor. When you see a man in his element, and you see a man in his beliefs, and he's going to come in, and he knows who he is, he knows what he's going to do. I seen the opposite of that when I guess in the early '90s, after he won the WBC again. I started to see a little bit of fear. I started to see a little bit of insecurity. I started to see a little bit of disbelief coming in to get a check. And I saw that his light went out at a certain point. But, I knew that life, to a certain degree, has defeated him. The rape charge, for example, nobody really knows what that must feel like to be accused of rape and to be taken out of your prime 3 years in jail. One minute you're a millionaire doing what you want, and the next minute you're thrown in jail. And I believe that was a bullshit. He shouldn't have gone to jail for that. There's a lot of people who, speaking of rape, another rape situation, I don't think people knew that this girl had some issues. And one of those issues was accusing people of rape. She did it before. She falsely accused someone of rape before. And, in a he-say-she-say case, it's very strange. In a he-say-she-say case where the she accuses people of rape falsely, and he got sent to prison for 3 years, I thought that really takes the life out of you. I'm also not sure what happened to him in prison. I'm hearing stories. I don't know. I just think Mike Tyson didn't really amount to what he could have been.
Oh, agreed. And it certainly circles back to another raping black male. Birth of a Nation. It just really just goes back to that trope, that stereotype, and it's just disheartening just to really just see what he's been through, and just I certainly think after that that was a major part of his certainly his boxing downfall and decline, at least, and his out of ring controversies certainly were a lot of it was racially fueled, and he certainly has been victimized. We all have, and he just had his victimization on display. And I just remember in an interview just recently, as last year, with him saying that he feels like a scared little boy. And I just think that's and he was like choking up. I forgot who he was. Who was interviewing him, but he was. I think it might have been Anderson Cooper, but he was saying that he feels like a scared little boy. And I think this is when he was doing doing his dance routine on Broadway in the city, and so it's just you go from somebody who if you really look at the the knockouts, there were really some he was when he was in his prime, like in his prime, and he was going in. Knocking people out, pretty seriously, and I think that now he's really just really a big joke for white people to laugh at and just love to have him in making cameos, and they just love him making up words, and just really being a poster child for a stereotype, and I'm sure he's very aware of it, but he knows that the lights need to stay on, and he has bills to pay, so it's a lot of us are in that predicament, so it's just very very expected, but still very disappointing to see.
It is very disappointing to see, and when he's not talking boxing, sometimes I get ready to cringe. I don't like him talking about too many other things, but I don't like to see him exploited, and I knew that what happened to him to a certain extent, especially as a black male athlete. You shoot to superstardom, you're number one. You need a certain type of mental toughness to deal with a lot of what's going to happen to you. And I saw a train wreck situation where I don't think he was prepared to deal with a lot of what he had to deal with. And people don't even realize retrospectively how young he actually was. He was 20 when he was heavyweight champion of the world. He was 20, just out of his teens. Number one in the world, heavyweight champion, multi-millions, and a kid who never really had much. He just went off the rails. His father figure died. He married a person that did not love him, didn't marry him for love, took his money. Don King took his money. Like, his world really unraveled. And I see him for the potential and what he's already achieved. He did achieve a lot. A lot of people they get a little extreme, and I'm used to that. Like, boxing fans, they go overboard, and they like to take everything away from you that you achieved if you bottom out later in life, and they're just a little irrational. But he unified all the belts, which is still not done yet by anyone, and he was definitely a serious heavyweight champion, legendary, internationally, just a legend. And he just bottomed out. He went very high and just crash landed.
Yes, a very tragic story indeed. D-Train?
Hey, am I muted?
Oh, yeah. I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. That's pretty much all I've got. That's pretty much all I had.
Yes, same here. Definitely would love to, I'm very much looking forward to, those updated, documentaries. And I also just want to say before you go, I'm also very, looking forward to maybe seeing more about Monique Presley. I think she's very, I think she's on point. And I just wanted to get your quick opinion on what she's been doing, what she's been doing, and how she's been really impressing people and turning a lot of heads, about Bill Cosby.
Right. Well, she's actually, she's being an attorney, and I think people are just readjusting themselves to seeing an attorney do what attorneys do, and she's excellent at it. Alred is doing, quite something else, and she's really, really, an excellent. She's just, there's not much more I could say. She's just been on point. When you watch, TV and these sound bites, and you wish you could. You just get mad. You yell at the TV. When I see her, I just sit back. Just let her go. She's got this, and they come at her. And they have all the media tricks, and I know them because I research these things, and I know the things they're going to say and the traps that they try to set. And she just beautifully and effortlessly maneuvers out of that. When you're prepared, when you're professional, when you're competent, and you know your stuff, you can't. This stuff can't faze you. And I'm a firm believer of that. Especially when you see the game for what it is, I believe she does, and she's just doing a wonderful job. I tip my hat to her.
Certainly agreed. Recently saw a CNN interview that she had, with a white anchor. She went to work, and she really put her on Front Street and really actually called out, saying, well, you're a journalist, and you should know X, Y, and Z, and this was taken out of context, and it was just Benadryl, and things of that nature. So, just saying that, it's just like, you can sit back because she's saying what you would say if you were in that situation, essentially. And, she's putting it in a very articulate manner, and definitely, I'm sure she's being taken care of.
Yeah, she's really a quagmire for them because, she's articulate, she's very smart, beautiful, she's just hard to hate. They wanna hate her and demonize her, but they really can't. And she's just she's clowning people. Like what she said was not confrontational, but she just had a way of making Gloria Allred look so ridiculous in one exchange, and that wasn't even her intention. She's just being a lawyer, and Allred is doing what she was doing. And Allred was like talking about, having a showdown and doing this, and meet me on this program, and Monique just said, well, I'm an attorney, and I will meet her in court, and just had a very professional demeanor and just made her look like the ridiculous spectacle that she is, and she's just doing a great job, handling this. And I feel so much better that she had, Bill Cosby has this, because at first I didn't see anything from his legal team. I read the deposition, and his lawyers. And lawyer was on point in the deposition. There's only a few of us who actually knew what was going on in the deposition of people who were running around talking about it. But in the deposition, his lawyer was tough. His lawyer was, on point. But publicly, which was where he was being tried, where he was being roasted, there was no voice. There was no legal shutdown of anything that was coming his way until Monique arrived, I feel. So this was just really refreshing to see. Very, very much so. And I actually looked at more clips of her. There actually is beforehand. I'm not sure if people remember, there was a fraternity that had a racist song on the bus.
and she was speaking about that, directly, and she was mentioning, that, white, saying white supremacy, and, just being very, very candid about it. So she's very, very, and this is before the whole Bill Cosby thing. So she's definitely, in the know of what's going on, and that's why that's another reason why I think that she's really on point and knows what's going on with all of this.
Passionately so, and I think, like myself, I think, and I think she explains this on TV in a clip, but that's how she got hired, and that's how she got involved, because she, like myself, was just observing this madness, this circus, from someone who wasn't, emotionally compromised like most people were. Like, a lot of people know to watch the news with a grain of salt and not just believe the narrative being pumped at you. And so, she was one of those people, as an attorney, that was watching what was playing out, knowing that even if, there was some truth to the allegations, what's happening, and how they're doing this, like, it's just like they're just laying it on thick, and, guilty or not guilty, they're still trying to make you believe he's guilty by just hiding everything that, makes him look good, and pushing up front everything that makes him look bad, and and then they came up with the deposition confession, and it's just like a show to them. This is not a man's life or a man's legacy. This is just like a show to them, that they're trying to add the salt and pepper and omit details. And I guess, as an attorney, she watched this and was just like, no, this is horrendous. This is horrendous. This should never happen. Are there lawyers involved with this anywhere? And so, she, made some commentary, and she got hired, and, this is definitely her moment to definitely do her stuff, because it was definitely needing a real attorney to clean this mess up.
Absolutely. And, certainly, I would say, your documentary, again, it does, enlighten people, and it does make people, certainly I've seen it, circulating, on social media, being retweeted and things of that nature, and it's really, has picked up steam, and I think that it really does, serve as a testament to truth telling. And I think that that's also, what is needed, when there's, a sea of lies and a sea of brainwashing, from the scandals to the empires and things like that, and, other distractions, there needs to be truth,
There you go. There's a lot at stake. And, part of my, reason for doing this, has everything to do with Bill Cosby and beyond, because there's more. People have to get used to how you're compromised, and how you're compromised emotionally, how you're made to believe certain things. I'm talking about from politics, from everything 9/11, da-da-da. You have to know and get used to the fact that you're sold a narrative, and you have to break that way of thinking and remove yourself from being caught up in whatever they're trying to make you believe, and get used to critical thinking, because it's going to be something else next year. It's going to be something, political, something involving war. You have to get used to doing this for every situation, because you can't trust what you see.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you don't know, like, if truth is stranger than fiction. And that's what's very exciting about law, is because he could be innocent of every one of those accusers, and you would never know.
This is true, and he, you're looking at the evidence, it's most likely he is, and, that's, the power of the media, and when you boil it down, it's the power of white supremacy.
Yeah.
again, would you, before you depart, would you like to give out, where the listeners can reach you on Twitter, on Facebook, of course, your YouTube channel, things of that nature?
Sure. Again, my Twitter, Drew Hepkins, at Drew Hepkins. You can find everything on Drew Story News. You can Google that to find the YouTube. You can Google that to also find the Facebook. And the website where everything is centralized that will lead you to everything is drewstorynews.com. That's DRU, drewstorynews.com.
Highly recommended. Highly recommended. Again, Dru Hepkins, thank you so much for coming to our program, being so liberal with your time and energy, and just being so candid with the both of us.
Thank you, Mr. Hepkins.
No, thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Great. We look forward to definitely having you on in the future, and we'll definitely be in touch. And looking forward to the next work that you put out.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yes, sir. And I'm definitely forward to that Dr. Welsing, Dr. William Shockley debate. It's definitely worth watching.
Yes, definitely do that. I kind of pulled up something here myself that I'm going to jump into in a minute, but I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you for coming on.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yes, that was Dru Hepkins. Yes, Drew Story News on YouTube. Some good stuff. Some constructive stuff. Reckless 2.0. D-Train, you still there?
I am.
Yep. Thoughts on our guest, Mr. Dru Hepkins? Notes, questions, comments, concerns, criticisms?
No, not at all. Like I said, I think it went pretty smoothly. I mean, like I said, I think that critical analysis is crucial to pretty much everything. Definitely, I mean, even if you think that Dr. Cosby is, not necessarily on the up and up, I think it is crucial to question why. Why now? And like I said, I mean, the guy's almost 85 years old. Like he's pretty much incapable of defending himself, even though he has competent attorneys. But he's pretty much incapable of defending himself right now. So it begs the question, why? Why now? Why now? And I mean, just based on my childhood, Bill Cosby and Thurgood Marshall, when I was a child, those two were the only people alive that we discussed during Black History Month. These people, Bill Cosby, he's a big deal, and just the attempt to kind of erase all of his legacy over a few allegations that may or may not be true. It doesn't sit well with me at all.
I don't see any evidence that they're true, D-Train. I don't think there's anything to be on the fence about, and it's just ridiculous, and it's just racist. Obviously, what's happening, but one thing I point out, Bill Cosby is still sharp though. Don't sleep on that. He was still giving lectures and speeches, and still being funny and stuff. So he was doing. I'm not gonna totally paint him as a senile old kook. But I'm sure in his defense, he wants to be playing that role. So I understand. I can understand that. I can certainly understand that angle. But that's not what I.
That's not your observation. I got you. The most recent comical references that I have of Bill Cosby. Have you ever seen those episodes of Family Guy where they portray Bill Cosby? He's like, yeah, like, you know, like out of his mind. I mean, it's racist, obviously, but.
Oh, yeah. On, well, they've had him on, I forgot, it was Kids Say the Darndest Things. And, you know, just, you know, but as a family-friendly nutcase, you know, which is what the, you know, the role at the time it demanded. You know, but what I find interesting is that the only program that's still on the air, both in television syndication and on Netflix, is A Different World.
Which is a Bill Cosby production. So.
Absolutely. You know, he was spoken about very much, you know, he had his wife on there, you know, storyline-wise, you know, and, you know, the first season had his daughter, you know, it was a spinoff of The Cosby Show and had the credits.
It had three of his, you know, it had three of his daughters, because,
yeah.
I think in the couple episodes, Vanessa and Rudy, like, visited the campus, so.
Did you do the binge watch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely do. That is definitely one of my favorite shows during the 90s. So.
Absolutely, and I'm glad it's on Netflix. You know, just hey, you know, just put it on. It was definitely one of the very few, you know, semi-constructive programs. You know, it had its flaws. It had, you know, this and that. You know, but ultimately, you know, certainly it was attempting to present an image of black self-respect. You know, on television.
I mean, as does the Cosby Show. As much as sanitized as it is, and I know a lot of people had a lot of criticisms about that. I don't particularly mind it. I mean, like I said, I definitely think that there doesn't not exist a black world, you know, a world where black people are, you know, doctors and lawyers. Like I feel like people are being a little disingenuous, saying, "Oh, well, you know, this isn't realistic," because that was a huge criticism of the show.
It's certainly realistic, but if we're looking on averages, if we're going to throw a pie chart up there, if we're looking at a pie chart, you know, what's going to have the biggest slice? You know, that's the only question.
Yeah, most definitely, but you know, I think a lot of criticisms of that show, and like I said, I do admit it's sanitized, but you know, I think he was trying to present an image of black self-respect. And,
absolutely.
I mean, definitely kudos to him for that. I mean, it was a little apolitical for me, but definitely kudos to him for that. I mean, it's still kind of one of my favorite programs that used to be in syndication.
Some of the articles on there are like, watching the Cosby show is just so different now. And, you know, and it's just, you know.
Not. It's not. I mean, like I said, you know, he created, you know, he helped create a series that, you know, is pretty much game-changing in the sense of television.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, you know, no matter what he did or didn't do, you know, I don't think you can ever take that away from him. And, you know, I mean, for lack of a better word, it's kind of fucked up that what is happening is what's happening right now. So.
Again, the top 10 richest black actors on the planet, and he's number 2. And I do want to readjust those figures again, that Tyler Perry is at $450 million, and Bill Cosby is at $380 million.
You said 350 before, didn't you?
He was at 350 before, and now he's at 380. Before, Tyler Perry was at 400, and now he's at 450.
Okay, cool. I guess they gained. I guess they both gained $30 million in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, and if you look at the amount of content that Tyler Perry's been putting out versus the amount of content that Bill Cosby's been putting out, we can see, you know, who has the heavier amount of a body of work where, you know, still getting those residuals for, you know, I guess decades of work, but now getting accusations of decades of rape.
What a juxtaposition. But Yeah, like I said, I think there's definitely credence to at least both of our sides of the debate, where being a little cautious in terms of accusing him or exonerating him or anything, and also saying that there's pretty much no evidence based on most of the women that have presented cases. Now the people that
any of them, there's none.
Now the people that are saying he's definitely a rapist, yeah.
We have to $380 million, the second richest black actor on the planet, was attempting to buy NBC for the second time, and was well known to sleep with white women. So of course they're going to be throwing it out because again, a white woman could never just consensually sleep with a black man. He had to rape her. He had to rape her. So that's a part of the narrative.
Yes, I mean most definitely.
Oh, I know you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, just what I said to you before the program is that when you think of just that age-old black stereotype of the black male rapist, and then when you think of the five most famous black people, Bill Cosby is always in your top five. So just as like I said, that does not sit well with me at all. There's definitely something fishy about this whole situation, and definitely something very suspicious about the time.
Very, very much so. Oh, before we go, I do want to mention good old Hillary Clinton. Her and my grits today, having to hear Hillary Clinton explaining what white privilege means. And again, there's propaganda. There's propaganda with the use of the term white privilege, and this part of white people sanitizing, attempted counter racism by spreading white.
But before you go into this, I just have to say this on the record: this bitch is the biggest flip flopper on the face of the planet. I mean, this is reckless, right? This bitch is the biggest flip flopper on the face of the planet. She flip-flops positions every motherfucking day. One day, she's, pro-gay marriage, anti-gay marriage. One day she's airing racist ads about Barack Obama. Who do you want to have that 3 o'clock phone call? Now she's talking about white privilege. Like, bitch, make up your mind. Like, seriously.
Well, this is true because this was a question to her from. Let's see if we can get it. If we can get it, I don't even need to pair. Let's see if we can just get it straight. Hold up. Yeah. Hold on.
Hello. As Alicia mentioned, my name is Talia Angueto, and I'm a junior here at Drake University, and my question is for you, and it is the following. White privilege is a term that more people are talking openly about these days. Certainly people like me have long understood what it means. Secretary Clinton, can you tell us what the term white privilege means to you? And can you give me an example from your life or career when you think you have benefited from it?
Well, where do I start? I think it is hard when you're swimming in the ocean to know exactly what's happening around you so much as it is when you're standing on the shore, perhaps watching. For me, look, I was born white, middle class, in the middle of America. I went to good public schools. I had a very strong, supportive family. I had a lot of great experiences growing up. I went to a wonderful college. I went to law school. I never really knew what was or wasn't part of the privilege. I just knew that I was a lucky person, and that being lucky was in part related to who I am, where I'm from, and the opportunities I had. But I'll tell you, when I first realized that I was privileged, both because I was white and because I was economically stable, I had two experiences. The first, and they both came through my church. The first, when I was about 11 years old, our church asked if some of us would volunteer to babysit for the children of migrant workers on Saturdays, because the families had to go into the fields and the older kids had to go with them. And there was nobody left to watch the little kids. And I and a couple of my friends volunteered, and I remember, in those days, Chicago was surrounded by fields. Doesn't look like it anymore, but it was. And it was on the migrant journey from Mexico up through Texas, up through the Midwest, ended up in Michigan. But at a certain point in the summer harvest, folks were in the Chicago area. So I remember going out there, taking care of these adorable little kids, and I kind of thought, well, they're very different from me. I mean, they've got different experiences, but they were just little kids. And then at the end of the day, at the end of this long road, because there are all these sort of housing units, at the end of this long road, the bus stopped, and the parents and the older brothers and sisters got out. And when the little kids saw them, they just dropped everything and began running for their mothers and their fathers, holding their arms out. And I remember it like it was yesterday, watching that, and I was thinking, I used to do that with my father. And I'm watching these kids and their families, they have to work so hard. And the place they live is not very nice. And I just felt, I have a different kind of life. I didn't call it a particular name, but it was a different life, and I knew that.
And T-Train?
I am here.
How do you feel about that white privilege?
God. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. She talked around the question the whole time. If I was the person to ask that question, I would have asked her, how does she feel about her campaign, whoever in her campaign, maybe it was her, maybe it was some other white person who decided to, run campaign ads that practice racism against Barack Obama. That's what I would have asked her. Besides this white privilege garbage, and even if we're talking about that, she didn't even answer the question. Migrant workers, where were these migrant workers? Were they from Haiti? Were they from Russia? I don't know. She's just talking around the kid.
Really, just the way she answered that question just was oozing racism. She was like, well, I had a nice family. I went to good schools, and I had a strong family, implying that, because I'm white, I had those things. So it's just, and just the fact that it just goes back to, just seeing, oh, well, I'm a junior and I heard about white privilege, just the brainwashing, because it's just a way to sanitize what's really happening. And that's why it's a term that should not be used. It's a term that promotes racism, white supremacy. It promotes refinement. It promotes the idea that white people are
lucky.
I just lucked out. Oh, no, it's something concerning. People die every fucking day for white supremacy to continue, for oil to get here, for things to get fucking made, people still die every day, and will continue to as long as the system exists. That's what the issue is. That's what the point is. And instead it's like, oh well, this is a privilege. It's not a privilege to be to not have your family fucking terrorized on a daily basis. It's not a privilege to be treated like a human being. It's not a privilege to not get fucking gunned down. So just using this term, which people are just like, oh, people are just want to talk about it more and more every day. Every day. What the fuck is she talking about?
Like I said, I mean, just the term migrant workers, like, were these people non-white? Like, just big. And I really want to know, did this bitch make this up? Like, seriously.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she was making stuff. That had nothing to do with how she had white privilege and they ran away. But that's the thing. That's why you ask a question like, what is white privilege? What is that shit? And then, that's the example you give, instead of saying, that's why you should ask about, racism, white supremacy. How have you benefited from racism, white supremacy? Even though it's not about benefiting. It's just absurd to go onto a plantation where it's essentially, sex slavery going on and saying, oh, you guys are just so privileged, and that's the reason all this shit is happening. And, you can't go on the slave ship and be like, oh, well, these guys are up here just because of white privilege, and if you really believe that shit, like, it's just, if, as a non-white person, definitely, just do some research on where, the term, where it actually comes from, where the term white privilege comes from, because it's very detrimental to speaking honestly about racism, and that is the exact reason why it's a detrimental term, because then you get answers where people can obfuscate and not really address what is being asked. She's trying to just ask you, you as a white person, how do you benefit from racism, white supremacy? How do you practice racism, white supremacy is really what she's trying to ask. How do you practice racism?
This is why I said that was this person that asked this question a non-white person? Was this like a town hall where you could like see the people asking a question?
It was a town hall, and I would definitely say this is a non-white person, and this person could be this person could be classified as a non-white, dark-skinned Hispanic person, quote unquote. But what does that mean?
Like a so-called Afro-Latino, or like
definitely just
like,
not a dark skin, a brown skin non-white person.
Okay, got it.
But
definitely so-called Native American. Okay, got it.
Well, who knows? It could be a light-skinned black person. Either way, because there's no difference, if we're being honest, because there's no fucking difference, because none of that is real. Certainly on the lighter side, certainly could be part of the so-called buffer class. Either way, this question was asked, by her, and she's a junior, and it's just like, what, did you just learn that in your fucking textbook you learned from 2 weeks ago? Like, come on.
Oh wow. Okay. Like I said, it's interesting because I would have asked her, like, how can people of color, how can non-white people trust you after the type of campaign you ran against Barack Obama in 2008? Like I said, I think that would have been a more relevant question, and I think that would have actually forced her to like actually answer the question. But to my understanding, most of these town halls, like, those questions are like vetted beforehand, and those questions aren't random. They don't just pick a random person and have them.
Yeah, but that's
because then you can get some shit.
What kind of shit though? Dude, that's when you lie, and then once you have that microphone in your hand, you can say whatever you want.
Hey, but look, the bitch lied after, just after that little softball question. So what you, they're not going, what I mean? They're not going to have, somebody asking real questions in there. Those questions are vetted beforehand.
Well, ask her why is she out here, dabbing and coon dancing with everybody.
That would have been a good question too. What did the commenter say on that?
Why is she slumming? Why is she slumming, culturally slumming by doing that?
Yeah, that would have been a good question too. What did that commenter say? He said the Republicans think Benghazi is the atrocity, but really Hillary Clinton dabbing is.
Exactly. It's true. You know,
yeah.
But I see. Of course, you know, now white people are saying that you know, she's starting to slow down, and Bernie Sanders, which is another has its own its own set of
white ass quirks.
Of white ass quirks, racism, white supremacy, from the Jew stereotype, being thrown out, being said and played out by so many people, but also just him being a white socialist and just saying anything for a fucking vote, and just really I'm Jewish, so I must have the black vote, that kind of stuff. But